May 24 regular board session.
Thank you. Are we online? Online? Very good. All right, let's call this regular meeting of the Marion County Board of Supervisors to order. Roll call. Mr. Grandia.
Keisha Johnner. Here. Mark Ramey.
Here.
Steve McCombs.
Here.
Would entertain a motion on this morning's agenda.
Make motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
McCombs.
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Any communications, Jake?
I haven't received it.
Board?
None.
None. All right, very good. We'll move on. It's the public comments portion of our meeting. The public can speak on items not listed on the agenda. The board cannot act on those items. They could be topics for future Board of Supervisor meetings. Are there any public comments on items not listed on this morning's agenda? Mrs. Dorn.
Yes, I would like to introduce.
I don't have a wireless.
Where's the mic? Where's the portable? Where's the boom mic? Where's all that? There we go.
I would like to introduce you to our new environmental health program manager. Her name is Lee Walker. She is from Pella, and she started yesterday, so you'll be seeing her around, and she'll be learning the ropes.
Very good. Welcome.
Well, welcome.
Yeah,
this
welcome
morning.
aboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on items not listed on the agenda? Anything online? All right, very good. We will move on. To entertain a motion on this morning's consent agenda.
Make motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
Ramey.
Aye?
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we're on to business here. First item is to talk about the proposal presented by the City of Pleasantville to participate in a development project, the Adkins property development. Did I remember that right, Joe?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And we have some slides up on there.
Are you ready for it?
Yes, you can go ahead and pull that up. In our first discussion, last meeting, we went through the overview of the project. Joe presented some high-level economic data as to the impacts of that project. We had D.A. Davidson on the line. I don't know if Michael is on this morning.
Yes.
Is Michael on? Okay, I don't see his. All right, Michael Maloney is on as well, and Michael did some high-level financial analysis for us, similar to what we've done when we looked at the Prairie Ridge project and the VA project, to give us an idea of what a GEO bond proposal might look like relative to our debt capacity, costs, those items. So today's really to ask questions, or for the board to ask questions, have discussion, and make a determination on whether they want to be a participant in this project with Pleasantville. Board, you had a chance to think, talk, ask questions. The floor is open.
Yeah, I've agonized over this ever since it's been presented, and I actually went and visited with Joe. Got a little bit more information. I'm supportive of the project, and as I sat this week and looked at it, I was trying to figure out all the scenarios in my mind on what the future is going to bring, and I come to the conclusion, like, if we don't take advantage of opportunities that are presented to us, I think, in my mind, the alternatives would be, in the future, the taxes are going to go up just to maintain the status quo, irregardless. And that's kind of why I'm leaning toward supporting this project. I think it's not only for housing, but also for commercial development. I believe that was one of the conversations Joe and I had, and I was very impressed with that idea. I think we need to plan for the future for Marion County. If we don't, like I said, if we just maintain status quo, taxes are going to go up anyway. But also, I want to say that this would probably be the last one that I support for a while, until I can see some positive results and some return for the investments for Marion County. Something, one of this size anyway, I should say. I think our priorities in the future are going to have to be looking at our own county operating expenses, so we need to start being cognizant of that. So that's the only reason I say I'd probably be the last one I support for a while until I start seeing some concrete returns.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
I just have,
Keisha.
yeah, I have a few questions for Joe. Joe, so you said last time that you did the RISE grant. You've received the RISE grant then, is that correct?
We've signed the RISE grant. We haven't got any funds yet, but we've secured the RISE grant in a resolution, and yes.
Okay. And then has there ever been any talk of just having the developer put the infrastructure in, and then them coming back to you for TIF?
Yes.
Okay.
He's not financially able to do that much.
Okay. All right. Okay. Because I know that you did that with the Springview housing. I believe that was correct. You did that there.
Yes.
I've been struggling with this, and it's just the timing with the inflation. I mean, I haven't really wavered in where we were the last meeting, just with gas and food alone, the weight. I'm supportive of this. I just struggle with asking the taxpayer again. Since we don't know fully where Prairie Ridge is, and then obviously we have the VA. So that's kind of where I'm at. I would prefer to see the developer to do the infrastructure and then TIF, and then you come, and see if that needed to be extended. That's where I would be, so, but.
Fair. Thank you, Keisha. Very good.
Make a few points here.
Oh, absolutely, Joe.
Just
Yeah.
real quick, and I'll be very brief. Keisha, I would agree with you 100%. And, initially that's kind of where we were planned. And when I met with all you, this has morphed into a lot bigger project than what we anticipated. And partly due because we were awarded the RISE grant. So that intersection, it's not feasible to ask the developer to change that whole entire intersection. That's going to be a multi-million-dollar project. And that's going to add value to that the entire commercial area and then potentially that residential area. Couple points that I'd like to make is I think we have to look and trust the folks that have been working on this project, myself and our council members, professionals. Carl Isaac has been a great asset to us as far as planning, and the state believes in this project. So I wouldn't bring this to the board if I didn't think it was going to go. Your financial advisor, Michael, is great. I think he gave you kind of a worst case scenario. Keep in mind, we have a developer that is going to build there. And so I think his tax levy was $5.42 per 100,000. What wasn't factored in is 20% of that for those 5 lots. I figured 20% of that is going to be that builder building on one lot. So that per capita, that $5.42 is going to be reduced just by him building there and the taxation collected by that. So we do have a lot of interest in that. I think it's going to go through, and I wouldn't put it in front of the board if I didn't feel that was going to happen. So I'm a taxpayer as well,
and I get it.
We have to protect it. I think the one thing I really want to point out, I'll be really brief, but I think Pleasantville is in a unique situation, and we have to think about growth now and putting that infrastructure in now. If the economy does go south, which we don't know, truly, but if it does, worst case scenario, having that infrastructure will make that much more attractive for developers to come in, because we're not going to ask them to put that infrastructure, and we're going to have it available for them. And at some point, if we don't generate taxes or more taxes in Pleasantville, particularly in the commercial growth, we're going to have to cut services. And those services will include Parks and Rec and potentially the police department in the future. And if we have to cut that, Pleasantville is going to need a department, and they're going to have to rely on the sheriff's office to cover that town, which is going to add burden onto them. So,
Can I put a plug in though? I struggle with the road being 55 and for growth, and I think of Knoxville, I think of Melcher. I mean, I wish that could be switched. I won't
To
lie.
what?
To back to 65 and those turn, I understand there's several different turn lanes on that road. But I struggle with, we want all of Marion County to grow. And if it just stops there, because I do hear people, including myself, I struggle with that, it's like, oh, now I got to slow down, so.
You do realize that only that stretch puts 45 seconds additional time on your commute.
Well,
From
but
55
I
to
understand,
65.
but you get where I'm going with
I
that
do.
aspect is that you have to, it's a mind thing, and we want people, 45 seconds to some people is quite a bit. When you think about the aspect of, day after day after day of doing it, so, but that would be my plug is, I struggle with that.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. We, unfortunately, the DOT controls that speed zone. We don't have any control over that. So.
I can tell you what swayed me, was the possibility and probability of commercial development. That's what pushed me the other way when I had this conversation, and also the RISE grant. I think if you were to give up the RISE grant now, it would probably be very difficult to acquire one in the future. Am I correct in that assumption?
Absolutely.
But do you, because we just went through that, I thought you already had to be awarded, you already had to have that commitment.
We are
Through the-
awarded.
through the
but
city.
If we don't follow through with the funds, it'd have to give them back.
Right.
To reapply, good luck with that. I don't think it'll.
No, I get that, but I figured you'd already had to have that within the city's budget to be able to say you were going to, for the match or
The budget.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we're there. We've
Yeah.
already made the resolution. It's already been approved by the council.
Okay.
But Steve, you're right, and I think one thing just to add real quick is that there's a program, I think it's called Lotus.
Yeah, one of the comments I would make is, in looking last week, I looked on LOIS, which is Location One. It's a nationwide site that is used by site selectors and people looking for available property and available buildings. And when I looked at what was listed in Marion County last week, we had 6 total sites available. All sites were commercial and 1 industrial. That is what is on the books. And nowadays, with how site selectors work, they utilize those online resources to filter out places and properties. And they do a search, they set parameters. And right now, we're not very competitive because we don't have a lot of product on the shelf. We have 6 available sites. That's it, only 1 industrial. And so by this project coming on board, we have the potential to have some more industrial sites on there to be able to compete to some of the leads that we get, not only from the state, but also from the partnership, and also just as site selectors are out there searching for sites. So it helps us to have a diversity of more sites available to attract businesses.
Hey,
Thank you.
Joe, correct me here. I know that in our conversations there was another development that's fairly close there that this infrastructure could affect in the future would be helpful to that particular area also. It would probably have to be expanded, but at least the initial infrastructure would be in place.
Yes, so I think I harped on this last time a little bit too much, but the residential aspect, there is a phase 2 of Springview, which Premier Development did, which will require a lift station. So with this commercial project, we will put a lift station in that could potentially serve that in the future. Along with that, Premier Development bought 26 acres just adjacent to the Atkins development, which is still west of Highway 5. It's 26 acres. And they're set up in that corner. It hasn't been rezoned, but if they wish to rezone that to commercial, that would add in another additional commercial lot there. And we'd have water and sewer right there for them.
Okay.
Because the design will include the turn lanes and the pavement up to the Atkins property, which would serve Premier as well for that parcel there.
Okay. I would like to say that I strongly share Keisha's concerns about the economy. I've said that all along. I've made no secret that I'm concerned about that. But going back to what I said, if we don't do anything, we're gonna wind up paying higher taxes just to maintain status quo in the future, I believe. So it's kind of a catch-22 in a way, but I get it.
And I get your
Very
point
good.
too, Steve, I do. To me, I just struggle with timing, but.
Well, timing is
yep,
bad, I
Yep,
agree.
yep. So, but I respect what, how you look at it too, so.
And I appreciate all your work
Yeah,
as well.
no,
Yeah, I guess I'll come back to Joe. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
presenting, and board for your comments. My view really hasn't changed from the last meeting. We're in a position right now in Marion County where we know, take out the emotional, what's it gonna be, what's gonna happen, all that type of stuff. We know that we haven't grown. We struggle with growth, and when I talk growth, I'm talking population, both people living here and businesses. We know that investment from outside sources, home builders, large tract home builders, has not occurred, didn't occur at Prairie Ridge, won't occur at the VA, won't occur here. They're looking for some assistance because they won't absorb that sunk cost, no pun intended, to put in that infrastructure. Rural counties, and Marion County is certainly not unique in this situation, are going to have to make decisions about what they want to look like 20 years from now. And if they do nothing, whether the economy is good, bad, or in the middle, if they just do nothing, we will continue to decline in population. Our property taxes will not necessarily decline. Steve is exactly right. If people expect the same level of service and we get more mandates from the state to alter salaries, change how we do things, our costs will continue to go up to keep the same level of service, forcing boards of supervisors, ours and others, to make other decisions about operations, staffing, other wages that will have to be changed. So it's a very critical point for rural counties, and Marion County is predominantly more of a rural county, even though our job base is manufacturing, about 42% of those jobs. We have to think of creative ways to take advantage of opportunities when they come. They have to be economically viable. They have to give us a chance to grow our population and grow our economic base. It's not going to be the headquarters for Intel moving here, or Wells Fargo. It's going to be other types of businesses coming here. And will we take that risk to grow our economic base? That's really what it comes down to. And for the cost, and Joe, the work that you and your folks in Pleasantville and your team have put together, I think this is a risk that we can take, still within the numbers that we initially proposed for the VA. Because as you recall, when we were working on the VA project 3 years ago, we were thinking we would issue 20 million initially, and that has come down significantly. So we're no greater than we were back then when we were talking about the VA as a standalone project. But now we have the VA, we have Prairie Ridge, and we have this all at about 16 million, about 12% of our borrowing capacity. So it still fits within those initial thoughts that we might have to expend on those projects, and it gives us a chance to spread that economic potential across 3 communities.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mark, because I had considered that when I was considering, because I agonized over, like I said, but when we initially did the VA, that number was there.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, this kind of fits within that number, because that number had been lowered from the initial estimate of the VA. And when I supported the VA project, I knew that it was not going to probably benefit me directly because of my age. The reason I voted for it was for my children and my grandchildren's future.
Yep.
and future generations, so.
And Pleasantville, I'll be blunt, Joe, you tell me if I'm wrong, but Pleasantville's been landlocked. And I don't mean landlocked geographically, it's been landlocked from a population standpoint. You struggle to apply for other types of grants because of your size. You have to leverage the county. We need to find those opportunities that will allow some of these cities to stand alone and be able to do some things on their own. And this is one of those types of opportunities that could do that. Again, with everything, there is risk. Back in the mid-70s, as I said last time, that's when 3M came here. I'm sure there was risk when they thought about putting a plant in southern Iowa in the middle of the biggest recession we've had in the last 50 years. That was in the 70s. So we're looking at our future, not just the present. Because if we only do it when times are good and money is cheap and the Fed is giving us cheap cash to throw around, which is what they did for 10 years, in addition to the stimulus we received last year, that's no more a sound economic decision than trying to do it when times are a little more difficult. Because that's what caused this. So I feel, and not feelings aside, Joe, from just a data perspective, it's worth the risk. You guys have done a tremendous amount of work. You have somebody ready to build and ready to take advantage of this, and it has the potential to add to your local economy and add to Marion County. So I'm in favor of what you've done, so I appreciate that, the work you've put out. Jake, what do you need from us?
Well, the details are what's next. It feels like there's at least a consensus that this project would move forward, so we would need Michael to help us. I'm not exactly sure what the action item is today. What comes now is all the details and logistics. If this project, sounds like the project's gonna move forward regardless with the developer, but if Marion County's involved or not. So there'll be developer agreements, urban areas, probably joint urban areas, lots of lawyer work from that standpoint. We'd have to get representation and get moving on development agreements, who's gonna, city TIF, county TIF, who's paying, is it the city paying, and then all those details, just like we went through, there'll be development agreements, urban renewal areas created,
Right.
lots of processes, and then if there's bonds sold through that. So I don't wanna lean on Michael too much right now, but if, you know, it'll be a timeline that is laid out through that process next.
Then there'd have to be
Be
a
Allers and
public
Williams
hearing
and-
for the.
There'll be
urban
public
renewal.
hearings and all those things, because now, it feels to me like today is a decision if the board wants to just end this conversation, not, but it feels like the conversation may move forward. So then it gets to the actual details of agreements, urban and rural areas, those types of things.
So-
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Michael.
Jake, I think that was a really good summary.
Good. So in terms of process,
Mhm.
next steps, I think what we should probably do today is get a vote from the board on the commitment to proceed with that process.
To begin that process.
Instead of just kind of leaving it out in the open and going through each one of these steps. So I think that's what we should probably do today.
Yeah, because there will be development agreements that will need to be decided on
Correct.
down the road, and I would assume fairly quickly that this will have to get moved, the drafts or whatever. It's not,
Right.
you'll have to have representation.
There'll be engagement
I'm
letters and
assuming
things of
Allers
those.
is who you guys
Right.
used with the last two, and there's familiarity there. I'm assuming that would
Right.
be the case, but those types of things. I think there's probably an agreement with D.A. Davidson for representation and those things. You probably have something on the next several meetings, maybe.
Sure. No.
I have one more question to Joe. What's the timeline here, Joe?
So after we get that turned over to you as far as an urban renewal area, our timeline, we have already approved the development or the design of that. So once we secure all the developers agreements and get that secured to do a urban renewal area, T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, we'd like to get that sent out for bid. So July or August. That's probably an aggressive time frame because we're gonna have to have some public hearings, and it's gonna be a month or two to get all this stuff finalized, but, our goal is to get the design done, ready for it to be bid let, as soon as everything's done on our ends. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I suppose you'll be in contact with some of these folks that are interested. No, if this is approved, and then,
Yeah, so we'll reach out to, John Danos is our bonding attorney. And then we work with Northland Securities, so I think between Michael and our, Skip is the financial advisor through Northland, I think maybe we can all have a conversation, separately or together and just kind of work all those details out, what's needed through the county, what's needed by the city, and we'll get her done.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and speaking a little bit, what these agreements and what this is focusing on, from what I've just heard in the last meeting, it's focusing only on this commercial aspect of the area. It's not the residential, and it's to build the public infrastructure that will be.
That's correct.
Only the public infrastructure, so it's not funding whatever the development projects are. This is strictly dealing
Correct.
with infrastructure in the commercial project only.
okay.
That is correct.
That will be public, not owned by the developer, it's owned by,
It's
eventually Pleasantville, I
It'll be able to
guess.
turn it over to us, yes.
That is correct, Jay. Very good. But I think we should have a motion to proceed with that process.
I think one of the questions I asked Joe was if the city had the capacity, like I said, to provide water, or, and you were
Yes,
quite.
that study's already done. I can make that certainly available to you. That study's been done a few years ago as far as the water capabilities. We have an 8-inch main going out there that'll serve that for many years to come. No issues.
Okay, very good. All right. So again, probably should have a motion to proceed with the process of the county partnering with the city of Pleasantville on this commercial development, the Atkins commercial development. Is that a fair way to, is that the name, Joe?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion, but I don't know how to word it.
Like, you can just write down what I said, Jay.
Can you say it again, please? It was,
Motion for the county to partner with the city of Pleasantville
On the
Atkins commercial development project.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Nay. Did we have a second?
I apologize.
I'll second it.
So, procedure there.
It's
It's
okay.
all right. It's all right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I do appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
I know you spent a lot of time in it.
Next item is road department. Tyler.
Yeah, so bringing this before you today because what I'm requesting is simply an off right-of-way agreement is what we would typically pursue for a private property owner to get off right-of-way and do some work that's beneficial to the right-of-way. This particular property is owned by you, the board, out on the western edge of the VA property. This is a area that we've struggled to maintain in my 8 years here, with the ditch, erosion, shoulder erosion. There's been a couple of challenges there. One, when the federal government owned the property, we were not allowed to get off right away to do the proper ditching and shaping that we needed to do. And then also there was some utility coordination, but because we couldn't get off right away, we never pursued the utility relocation. With the county taking ownership, it was a year or two ago, we decided to pursue utility relocation, and now I'm simply asking, can we lay this back slope back to get the proper ditch established, provide some safety improvements, and then waste the dirt from the back slope and ditch shaping onto the VA grounds on what I think Chris has referred to as the back 40.
Okay.
So that is our request. I think the next slide maybe shows kind of the typical there. You can see The red line is the proposed, so we will have a flatter foreslope and back slope, and with a wider ditch bottom, which should help prevent the gully erosion that we have now that's eroding into the foreslope and into the back slope as it meanders down. And then you can see we do exceed by 20 to 25 feet what we can do within the right of way. There are some power poles there that cannot be relocated, or they could with some expense, because they are outside of the right of way. We cannot force them to move. So we have to do some special shaping around the utility poles, but the fiber and foam will be relocated to the south side of the road, and that work is already begun. So, and we get off right away to lay the back slopes back and then waste the dirt onto the VA grounds. And right there, you can kind of see the swale towards the center of the screen. That's where we plan to just waste the dirt. We will have the contractor strip, salvage, stockpile any topsoil. We'll lay the back slope back, shape that material, and then take the topsoil back over the top of any waste material.
You have my support.
Yeah.
I think it would be advantageous to any future development on that property to have that ditch fixed.
All right. Any other questions or comments, board?
No, I don't have any.
Is there a motion?
Make motion to approve the road department McKimber Street North Ditch grading.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you. Tyler, update.
Yeah, so this is not when I would normally do a road department update, but there are a few things that we are proceeding with as far as our Junction 92 project and some other operational things I wanted to make you aware of. So we are proceeding with Junction 92 building design. Right now we've moved from conceptual and schematic design into the actual architectural and structural engineering of the building. And as part of that, we have some limitations with the electric service. We had been proceeding as if we could only get single phase electric to the site, because I think even when Steve was here 5-6 years ago, we had inquired with Mid-American about 3-phase, and it was $1 million rough estimate at the time. The further we've got along in this building and further discussions between our electrician and Mid-American, 3-phase is available at a cost, about $300,000, which is obviously significantly less than the $1 million. And single phase is going to provide some limitations for us. Basically, at our current building design, we are maxing out anything we can do with single phase, it sounds like, because we have to provide up to 4 services into the site with single phase, and then they are saying there's no future expansion off of that. It would support our building as designed, but in the future, if there was ever any additional buildings, electric vehicle charging, we would not be able to support anything like that. There are other benefits to 3-phase. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, they say it's not as hard on some of the equipment. Maybe Chris knows more, but 3-phase is, I guess we're leaning more and more towards 3-phase electric. There's not a lot of savings. So Mid-American did an energy analysis, a commercial new construction energy analysis for us. There is no savings for us to go all electric, and we could only do that if we had 3-phase. We thought maybe that was going to be the tipping point. Spend $300, but the savings year after year over LP gas, but that's not the case. It was actually almost double the energy cost to go all electric than it was gas fired boilers. So that's a kind of something we need to make a decision on. Do we want to proceed with that now or not? Because that has some implications in our building design. And right now, I lean towards the 3-phase. It is expensive, but we're looking at close to $200,000 in these multiple services for single phase already. So the net, and these are all estimates, because nothing is finalized in our design. Mid-Am's just giving us estimates. So basically, we would look at spending $100,000 additional now. The service life of our equipment would be extended per a lot of our suppliers, per our electrician, because it wouldn't be as hard on the equipment, and the types of electric motors that we could get for things like air compressors and some of the pumps for our heating and cooling. And then the expansion, the ability to have future expansion, it would not limit us. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I plan to move forward with 3-phase. It is additional cost up front, but I think it sets us up for the long term, which is what this building is being designed as a multi-generational facility for Marion County. As all of our facilities are, they're there for 60 to 100 years. So that's what we want this to be in the future. And I think that cost will be worth it in the long run, although we cannot completely quantify that. So, as far as the funding for Junction 92 and the project as a whole, I've presented to you on multiple occasions the project costs, how they've changed over time. Right now, our project costs really haven't changed since we last discussed. We are still at around that $7.5 million full build, so that would include all buildings and all infrastructure when all said and done. The main shop building itself still lands around the $5 million mark. With our last meeting about a month ago, the architect said he was maybe a couple $100,000 strong on that estimate after discussing with the pre-engineered building designer. And after going through the commercial new construction process with Mid-American, we are already, our architect and our design team had already put in place the efficiencies that Mid-Am was going to recommend, so there wouldn't be any additional to get the most bang for your buck as far as the efficiency of the building and efficiency of the heating and cooling units. So,
Can I ask a question real quick?
yep.
So the main shop would be roughly 5 million is what the projection is. And then I know the office space and then all the extra, like the heating, cooling, the electrical, is that making up roughly the other 2.5 million?
No, so the main building would be all encompassing as far as that building. It would,
Okay.
that's turnkey.
Okay.
The additional 2 million would be in electric, communications, water coming into the site, salt shed, expansion, the office, and a cold storage building. And any remaining site work and exterior concrete work. Not all of which would have to be done at the same, at the same time, but most of that would be, and I detailed that out in one of the previous presentations.
Okay. So Tyler, is the plan then, you'll get this design all put together, once it's done,
Yep.
come back to us for a presentation on that design?
Correct.
And then final approval or alterations to that?
Yes, and because we have no funding commitment or funding secured for the project as a whole, my recommendation was going to be wait until approximately September, when we know more about Pella's local option sales tax vote, if that has passed. And then also our architectural design of the building would be complete at that point, and we would have the the final estimate on what that would be. So that would be my recommendation. There are many options for funding that I've laid out before,
right.
And possibly some more, but my recommendation would be wait until September. We'll have the building designed and have just better knowledge of the scope and cost at that point, and then also have a little more clarity on how and if we want to use local option sales tax moving forward for the project.
Right. Very good.
So I've spoken with probably all of you separately on occasions about some of our operational budget shortfalls because of inflation. So just kind of summarizing those. Fuel's always a big discussion because that's the hot topic right now. But we as a department are gonna come up about $70,000 short. In next year's budget, we are fine for this year because we are still under contract from 18 months ago. I plan to offset that 70,000 with our salt budget. We will not be taking any preseason salt this coming winter because the light winter we had last year. So we are leaving last winter with our sheds full, essentially. We took all of our in-season salt last year. That kept our sheds full through March. So we will not be purchasing any preseason. We currently, this year, had to come up with about 70,000 to finish the year for maintenance rock. So we saw an 8% increase in January. We're looking at another 5.7% increase in rock in July. Because of the January increase being more than what I had budgeted, we have to come up with that $70,000, which we were able to do to finish out this year's maintenance rock. And then for next year, what I had budgeted was not enough. I had assumed double what our typical increase is, and that was not enough. So we are $200,000 short already, and fiscal year 23 has not even begun. So that's a 12% increase in roadstone overall and a 17% increase in our clean rock, which is our repair rock that we use on muddy spots and soft areas. Not only does that affect our rocking and gravel roads, but those prices are in our, that rock goes into the asphalt mixes and into the concrete mixes. We've seen a 20% increase in our concrete price. So currently I need to absorb about $200,000 in other line items within our budget without doing a budget amendment. I think that is possible. We'll just make a few cuts here and there. My staff has been informed to do more maintenance operations rather than some of the proactive projects we've been doing that don't require materials. Culverts, we've seen an increase of 2 to 3x on most of our culvert as far as over the past 2 years. So a 72-inch culvert that used to cost $90 a foot is now $250. So if we don't do projects that require materials, if we go to doing ditching, shouldering, that sort of thing, we can still make improvements to the roads and still provide benefits to the residents and high level of service, but we just won't be spending money on the materials. That may result in roads being closed. If a culvert washes out and we don't have the material on hand, lead times are the other factor there. Right now, the 72-inch culvert I just bought is an 8-week lead time, and that's their best guess, is 8 weeks. So that has held up our projects, lead times, as well as contractor projects. We have 2 or 3 projects underway right now that probably could be completed, but we don't have materials and contractors don't have materials. I believe the city of Pell's in some of the same situation. So 200,000 sounds like a lot, but FY23, the upcoming year, those impacts will be minor because we still have cash on hand, have flexibility in my budget to absorb that. I think that FY24 impacts will be major impacts if things don't turn around. So next year's budget's going to look a lot different, and we're going to have some hard discussions at some point.
Yeah.
As far as maintenance operations,
Tyler, can I stop you for a minute? How much in ARPA money did we commit to Junction 92? Or not commit, but are we planning, tentatively planning on as part of that project?
I had given you a scenario of upwards of $2 million. I think what's remaining now may be in the ballpark of 1.2 to 1.4 million, depending on where Chris and Steve's projects come in. Okay. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip there. I don't really remember the exact numbers.
Okay.
And it's not including the fuel. So the fuel island, I I think I had 150,000 in there for the Junction fuel oil. That has been committed by resolution by.
Correct.
I think our original discussions were about $1 million, or around that number.
Yeah, and I had given you a scenario of what 2 million looks like as far as the project.
Just, I'm doing the quick math in my head here, and I'll probably get it wrong, so we'll probably need to sit down and go through it specifically. But if there's a material change in 23, if inflation stays where it is, prices continue to continue to be that variable to the upside, do we need to take that $1 million and create a fund for roads out of it to cover some of those costs?
Possibly.
You push off Junction 92 and you use that ARPA money for that.
Yes, I don't know that they could use it to purchase rock, for example.
Oh, I think with that resolution we passed, we can use it for just about anything, can't we?
Yeah, it's very open.
Anything under 10 million.
No.
Think about it.
Definitely.
I mean,
always an option.
I mean,
our
unlike a development, which is adding to our tax base, or at least potentially adding to our tax base and adding taxpayers, one of the things we have to do is keep a functioning road system.
Right.
And our customers and taxpayers believe that their road is valuable. So when you say potential road closure causes me my heart starts to beat a little bit faster. I think, do we have to make some adjustments on our internal planning where we were going to allocate ARPA money that presently we have not done so, and just plan for operations with that? So that's on for me, that's on the table. Let's think about that.
That's not out of the question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in the back of my mind, definitely.
Okay.
Now, this reflects exactly what my earlier comments about the developments, that this would probably be the last one I was going to support, because we need to start focusing on our operational costs.
I agree, Steve.
Yeah, they're two different things in my mind, but that's okay.
If I look at today's dollars, the bang for buck that we get now is what we were getting 7 to 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And so there's no room for progress there as far as
Right.
proactive road
And even if
improvements that we were
prices,
achieving.
yeah, and even if prices peak and begin to turn, which if all the data shows that there has been decreases from the peak on many things, but they're still elevated from where they were year over year. So if they stay at that elevated rate, that's going to increase our costs just going forward. And it could be for years.
And depending upon all the other costs, whether conservations, we don't know what those are gonna come in at too. So, looking at all that and that ARPA, I know that we've done resolutions, but that's something we're gonna have to think about. And, if those costs continue to increase, how much money?
We'll think about having that on the table.
Sure.
For discussion.
As far as maintenance operations, we discussed maybe some projects that won't get done because we don't want to spend money on materials. But as far as maintenance operations, we have had no discussions of reducing hours, reducing any level of service. There are some counties who have cut back on the number of hours their employees are working to try to save on fuel.
You're already seeing that, okay?
Yes, there are a few counties doing that. So we have not had those discussions, and I do not plan on those in the near future. I think our material costs, and we are in a really good position. Let's take culverts, for example. We have made some very significant progress. The number of our, what we call priority 1 work orders for culverts, there's a handful of them out there. We used to have dozens. So we've made some very significant progress there. So we are in probably the best situation we could be going into these times as far as culverts.
Which speaks to us being proactive in the earlier
when we
stages.
had yes. When we had that opportunity, we took advantage of it, yes. And we're constantly finding ways to be more efficient, so I wanted to give you the update. I've already told you, we've, in previous meetings, that we've made improvements and changes to how we rock roads, what equipment we use to rock the roads. We were hoping for about 2 years over the course of a 12-month period, or 2 weeks in a 12-month period of rock hauling savings by the changes we made. This spring was the first true test of all the new equipment and all the changes that we have made. So happily, I can report this week we will finish rock hauling in 11 and a half weeks. So in our first half of the year, we're gonna save a week and a half. We used to take 13 weeks. And so if that reciprocates in the fall, we will save 3 weeks instead of the projected 2 weeks in rock hauling. So that's 6 employees we can dedicate to other work during that time using basically the same amount of fuel. So a huge gain there for us, 6 employees with 3 weeks worth of time to do other things on the road system.
Excellent work. Is that part of that where you took the rock and you were stockpiling it
Stockpiling
within the county?
And changes to the equipment and changes to where and how we use the rock. And in the same time frame, we have been hauling a better quality rock, and in some cases hauling a longer distance to get that better quality rock.
Okay.
Lastly, Story Drive Bridge. This project's been underway since, I think, New Year's. They closed the road. So we had free winter work. The contractor worked through the winter, dodging some of the colder days. That bridge should be open this week. They're rocking the road today, and then guardrails the only thing we have left to put on. Other than that, our projects just keep getting pushed back. Our contractor work, Old 92 crack seal, G28 patching, and Attica resurfacing of G76. All of those have been pushed back to mid to late summer now. So not a lot going to be happening around the county until hopefully after nationals for G28 patching, but that would be my guess. It would be after nationals, late August or September, because that will be 5 to 6 weeks of significant delays on G28. So
Did Roberts Creek, that Roberts Creek Road, did that done? Or?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I think so.
It's open back up.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Tyler.
Tyler, anything else?
Thanks. No, that's all.
All right, appreciate the update. Entertain a motion to close discussion.
Make motion to close discussion.
Second?
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
All right, next item, the liquor license renewal for Wacko's Bar and Grill. We got an email from Sheriff saying he was supportive. Board, any questions on this?
I have none.
Jake, or is there a motion to approve?
Go ahead.
I move we approve liquor license renewal for Wacko's Bar and Grill.
A second.
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye, very good. Cigarette permit application renewals. We have 2. Jake, are we doing these together, or are we separating them?
I think you can do it either way if you want to do a single motion, if both are on that. But
Is it the same group?
it's 2 different groups of people. It's the same annual renewals that we have every year.
Okay,
So
So it'd
if
be-
you needed, you could break them apart. It's up,
okay,
it's
well,
up to you
we'll
guys.
take them together unless there are questions or any objections. So we have Keener Oil Company and New Star Newton LLC for cigarette permit application 2022 to 2023. Sheriff, are you on?
I am. I have no issues on the cigarette side of it.
Okay, very good. Board, any questions?
No.
All right, is there a motion?
I move we approve the cigarette permit application renewals for Keener Oil Company and New Star Newton LLC.
I'll second.
McCombs.
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye?
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Resolution F, oh, we have several of them there. Jake, are we taking them separately?
Yes, so I kind of just approached this from the agenda, kind of like the last one. These are all combination efforts between the assessor's office, treasurer's office, and our office in doing the annual credit applications for the ones that you see before you, homestead, disabled, and military. I create separate resolutions for each one. Each is a separate application process that the taxpayer or landowner goes through. And it's what's being the list before you are simply the ones that have signed up in this year. These
Right.
are all ones that, once you sign up, it keeps going.
Right.
So, the assessor did not recommend any disallowances for any of the applications.
That's what I was gonna ask,
We
yeah.
received,
Okay.
I received no, no lists to disapprove, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's approved, of all the applications that were received that they're presenting to you for the timeframes. These then, if approved, are in our system and get applied to this next round of taxes that we create in July. I have no issues with any of these. It's standard administrative procedure. So they recommended to approve all. So I have no issue if you wanna, if you don't have questions, to do it in one motion for all 4 resolutions. They are 4 separate resolutions.
Okay. Board, is there a way you want to approach this? I can do it either way, separately or all together. I think the legal term is en banc.
Let's do them all together.
All right. Is there a motion to approve FY23 property tax and credit exemption applications? We have resolution 2020-254, 55, 57, and 58.
We skipped 56 because it's business property tax credit and we're still working on it.
Okay, I thought maybe you just ran out of that.
Somebody else got in there.
All right.
The EDCs will come later and that will be the last year, I believe we'll have to do that because of the new legislation.
All right.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Ramey,
Aye.
Joner,
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
I'll have to get Ed to correct me on whether I use that term.
Yeah.
It's been a while. VA project, Mr. Nesby.
Yeah, so not a whole lot new to report. Final grading has taken place on about a third of the campus. Topsoil's being put back on, so we think east side next to the Young's Park, about 450 feet to the west, has been graded. All subsoil compaction tests have come back in the 98, 99 percentile. So they've done an excellent job on it. The topsoil's going back on right now, so we might even see some late spring seeding happening. That's literally about it.
Very good. Board, any questions?
Are they putting seed back on, or are we as
No, it's part of
facility?
the contract.
It is, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm amazed every time I drive by there, Chris, and the difference in that.
You and me both. And I get to see it every day.
Very good. Chris, thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. I would entertain a motion to close discussion.
I make a motion to close discussion.
I'll second.
Joner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye. All right. Annual evaluations. We have 3 of them. You sticking around?
Yeah, I'll stick around.
All right. Carla.
Good morning. I have before you just kind of a summary of some of our activities, some of the things I wanted to highlight that we've definitely been working on this year. Is our Red Rock Startup was a new project. We involved our local partners in that project as a new way to encourage entrepreneurship. We were able to get some in-kind space donations from Gathering Grounds and really had a good opportunity to highlight entrepreneurship. Moving forward to next year, kind of making the transition, the other thing that we're planning to add for next year is an initiative on succession planning. And we're going to be working with Advance Iowa, which is out of UNI, to help us provide some one-on-one counseling and some information and webinar information for our local businesses on succession planning. The major project also for this year has been our website redo. Both from the economic development site and the tourism site. The tourism site went live April 15th, so it's fairly new being up there. I hope you've gone to it. If you haven't, you can either link to it on the homepage of the government site, or you can directly enter Red Rock area and it'll take you to that. It was kind of a major site overhaul because of the fact that Red Rock area has over 400 entities listed on the site. to get photos and information for all of those folks and get those updated was kind of a major project, but Neapolitan Labs was great to work with, and I think we have a very wonderful presence, a new interactive map. And as, again, transitioning into what we plan to do next year, we hope to apply for some grants that are out there to add additional video, not only to just general video, but also to get some video of our key attractions and stuff. So as they hover over the map pinpoint, a little 10-second video or whatever would show, so to give people an idea of what it's really like to be here. So that's kind of our project for next year. We've got the good framework up. Also, we're working on, we started a blog. We've never done a blog before, and now the blog appears on our website, and we'll be able to do social postings with those blogs seamlessly so that people can then connect back to the website to find more information. The final kind of new initiative we did this past year was the economic gardening focus. We took 3 stage 2 companies through this process, which gives them research on how to grow their markets. We will start to do the evaluation of that program in June because that'll be their 1-year anniversary with the first company. The last company just ended in February. So as we go through this year, we'll see what those impacts were of helping those companies with the research that they needed. That bigger companies have people that can do that kind of research within their company, but these stage 2 growth companies that have potential don't have the people to help them. Like for instance, with one of our companies, they were selling in the ag sector and now they wanted to go into the construction sector, but they didn't know who the customers were. So that's what this project did, was help them identify those key qualified customers so they could grow their business. So those are kind of the 3 big chunks that took a lot of my time this year, in addition to the other projects that we do like Leadership Red Rock and things like that we do on a consistent year-to-year basis. And I highlighted the succession planning and the video project. The other areas for next year are, I plan to in the next month, hopefully, pull together a local broadband task force that we can look at the broadband study, determine if there's needs for us to move forward with any policy changes or any other types of changes based on what we've learned through the study to actually put that plan into action. So that's another major initiative for the year moving forward, as well as through our I-WIN process. We've evaluated various different groups of people who are not currently working and understanding where is our opportunity, because we know there's no new people. So the groups that we're going to be focusing on next year from a more marketing standpoint is in commuters, which means trying to get more people to commute into Marion County, but also getting out commuters to find a job here instead of commuting out. Those are the 2 groups that we think we can have some good success with doing some geofencing and some of the social media and marketing to help increase the number of people both in commuting and the out commuters to stay in here. That also will go into a couple of the other groups we looked into, which are stay-at-home mothers. Another group that we looked into is early retired, and what you can do with part-time positions and getting our employers more open to creating part-time positions that some of the early retired might enter back into the workforce. So trying to find creative ways to solve those workforce problems is kind of what the whole I-WIN process has been about. The other thing that is an option, as we've kind of gone through the last couple of months, you guys have been inundated with a lot of people coming to you for incentives and things like that. One of the best practices that I've seen with some of the cities, I don't know that I've seen too many of the counties do it, but it could certainly be adapted for a county, is to have some type of online application process so that if somebody's coming to you, they have to fill out both kind of the narrative and the financials, that you would have that consistent. You could also then set kind of what your goals are for what you want to look at as far as incentives and have that out there so that it kind of sifts through the projects that may not be within your priorities. So if that's something you'd like us to kind of move forward to at least give you a draft to see what that might look like from some of the cities we've seen, that's something we possibly could do to help you with this process.
Right. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Carla.
Just setting it. Hey, Steve, they've got some aspirin back there for you. Do you need something?
No, I've got some.
Oh, you got some stuff? Okay. All right, very good.
Sorry about that, Carla.
No.
No problem.
Carla, I was wanting, I know we had visited a while back about the laundry facility. Obviously, we know that the Knoxville is working on that. And you brought up your series, is it, what did you call that?
This is Lois.
Lois, that's
Location
right,
line.
yeah, right? Okay. So that's something, obviously, depending upon where we're at in the process, that something could be placed on there. Currently,
Right.
you're not seeing it, correct?
Right.
Okay.
That Lois lists available sites, but it also has another portion that lists available buildings that are either commercial or industrial.
Okay.
So there is the potential, when a building or when a site becomes available, that we can put it on there. Like I said, in our work with Janet, we know that those site selectors that are working nationwide, as well as the partnership, uses that tool to identify what's available in the region or to identify what's available in the state.
Wondering, I know, is there, and I don't know, this is something I'd like to speak with the board too, with you. The possibility of maybe trying to do some videoing. Is that something that, I mean, you know, maybe as a board, depending upon where we're at and where the city, I don't know if the city has the capability to be able to, maybe Carla could work with Glenn on that and, you know, doing some videoing on the outside. I know the inside obviously is not in, you know, the shape that would be empty, but.
Right, for Lois, what you'd want is you'd want a site plan, so you'd want a plan of the building, to know how the building is laid out with the dimensions and those kinds of things. The other thing you would need is all the utility information to the building. If you want to put a building on Lois, that's very important. And just various different measurements of things like, I don't know if there's a loading dock out there, but heights and things like that. There's a lot of quantitative data that goes into Lois, and then usually some site video as from the outside, as well as some photos, still photos, usually are what's done as far as to market the building, but you have to have a lot of that infrastructure information as well. Ceiling height, all those kinds of things those are all searchable, filterable terms that people use. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's looking for a ceiling height that has to be X high, it's going to eliminate all the buildings that have a lower ceiling height.
So one of the things, Keisha, we should do as a board, and maybe we make this an agenda item, is start a discussion on what we want to do with that building. How we want to dispose of the laundry building out of the VA. So given what we're doing with the legislature right now and the things we're working on that Kelly is updating us on in terms of RIF funding, which right now looks good, but we don't have anything final on that. That may help us in that endeavor, Carla, but I think we as a board need to have a decision or a discussion around what we would like to do with that building in terms of marketing it.
Okay.
So I think that.
Yeah, I wasn't for sure if that was, honestly, Mark, if that was fully under, you know, the city, or if that's still under us.
Well, we own it,
right.
So I think it really comes from us, and we can certainly work with the city on that, Keisha.
Okay.
And see, because they might have something they're thinking
Yes.
about, and we certainly want to take that into consideration. But at the same time, we would like to get a return off of the property. No
and
question about it.
I will tell you, I'm in the process of, within probably the next 2 weeks, Mid-American, who serves both the VA campus and Pleasantville commercial area, they have a new project manager. Many of you may remember Deb Calvert, who came around for many, many years. Deb retired in December, and Katie Lord is the new person for Mid-American. And so Katie would like to come and see some of those sites. So I'm trying to work with our schedules to figure out some dates that then whoever I need to contact, but she would like to see kind of what's going on with the VA campus and as well as Pleasantville. Mm-hmm. And kind of get more familiar, because obviously they're a player in the redevelopment as being the utility provider for electric.
Sure, that's good. Very good. Very good. Board, any questions or discussion with Carla on, again, this is annual job performance, so.
I will say the other new thing that we did implement this year is, and it was kind of brought about with LDJ and their expansion project, is that anytime a company is adding more than 20 jobs, we will collect their numbers, their data, and do an economic impact study so that you would have that information and that they would have it as they're seeking other funding. We work with UNI to get it. Mostly it's a collection information. It costs us a couple $100s to do one, but it does give them then, as they're looking forward to like applying like LDJ was to RISE grants and things like that, it gives them the data that they need as far as economic impact. We decided that 20 jobs was kind of the threshold. We weren't going to do it for people adding, 5, 10 jobs. But when somebody's adding 20 jobs, that's a fairly significant expansion. And if they request it, that we have that available to them.
Right. Carla, one of the questions I have, we right now are engaged in 2 fairly significant development projects, the VA and Prairie Ridge. what's your involvement with the cities on those projects in terms of, I mean, our number one concern is a return on investment. So that means people, houses, property, increasing valuations, a growing community, the things that we've talked about over the years in terms of our population base growing, and then the return to the taxpayer in terms of taxable valuation. So what's your involvement right now with those two projects?
I'll start in reverse. I've been very involved with Joe over the last couple of months in their project. And I'm probably more involved when it comes to a Pleasantville because they have no city staff, basically.
Okay.
I mean, Joe's a staff person,
That's fair.
so there's a higher level of involvement when it tends to be a smaller town. With Prairie Ridge, I've had very little development. I mean, I've certainly met with the developer that's doing most of the planning and that kind of thing. The city, not so much. We haven't had, but early on we did, way before all the incentives were developed. I mean, that our involvement was at the early stage. Now that it's being developed, we don't have as much involvement.
So the ancillary things, the Smash Park and some of those, we're not involved in any of that. That's all city driven.
For the most part, yeah. We've met with them. I've certainly helped them with some marketing things. We connect them with the marketing part of it through our Red Rock area site and stuff like that. And we've worked with them to support the local community as they go after to attract that with information. We don't take the lead. That's been them the city taking the lead and us providing support. Same with Glenn. I've met with him several times on what they're trying to do here in Knoxville. So we're taking the supportive role, always trying to offer whatever services we can, whether that's connections they need to people that they need to get to know, whether that's resources, as far as grants or other information, or whether it's utilizing my time and talents to help them with some of the marketing components of those things.
So, all right, so we do the quarterly economic meetings, the update
Connect meetings.
What's been the product of those meetings? I mean, we've been doing those for a while. I think they're good. There was an intent to make sure people were aware of what was going on in the county and provide information. What's been the outcome of that?
I think the outcome for the most part is just awareness. We've made some of our local people aware of people and programs that they necessarily didn't connect with. I don't know that I can say one specific project, but I think just overall, I think there's also been a benefit for people between communities to know what's going on in the next community because they tend to still live in silos. So I think that's been beneficial. I think it's interesting to me to see what topics bring people out and what topics don't. When we had the quality of life one last year, we had tons of people here, which was funny to me because actually it was kind of the lighter of all the ones that we had. When we talked about grants and some of the incentives and stuff, not so many people came out. So I'm not sure exactly what what driver that is of why they like some topics better than other topics. The legislative one usually has a pretty good turnout. So just trying to figure out what are the things of interest to them. I see it as an opportunity to share all the things going on that they may not know about and to build those collaborations.
Do we list those? Carla, there are an alphabet soup of economic grants out there. Okay, all with different requirements, all with everything with a different parameter. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But for local business owners, local entrepreneurs who want to avail themselves of those grants, do we have one place where they can go and say, oh, that's what that grant is, and that might be for me?
It's similar. I mean, on our economic development information, we have it divided out between existing businesses and startups, and underneath, depending on which one you are, there are resources that give you the people with the general descriptions of the type of programs. What I don't like to always get into is, as you know, is saying a program because the state and federal always changing programs, but they generally give for the same types of things. The other thing that we will now be getting, because we're part of MIPA, and I just got one either yesterday or today, I just was reading it before the meeting.
Tell everybody what MIPA is for those of us who are academically challenged.
Mid-Iowa Planning Alliance.
Okay.
So it is the economic development organization that is similar to a COG, a Council of Government, but it's not a COG, but it's dealing just with economic development, where MIPO is the regional transportation organization that deals with transportation. That's been in existence for many years. MIPA is brand new. And we just got our first report from their director because they finally hired staff. And we do now have a good comprehensive list of some of the economic development grant opportunities with the name of the agency, description, and deadlines. So we'll be able to share that now. So that's, I'm planning to put it in a news article as soon as I have time to get done with the meeting. But that will now be coming to us, I think he said either every month or every other month. So that'll be a good resource that they'll be providing to us that we can then share with our folks.
Okay. So you're one of those unique departments within county government, Carla. It's economic development. So in my private sector world, I would have a way to judge success for performance and not success. We don't want to say failure anymore because that's a trigger word. So, and there are people in this room who have experienced that with me in the private sector. Looking back at the corner at Chris, how do we do that with you? I mean, what would, if you could tell the board, what's that metric for success when we know that our economic development department is adding value for the people, the customers, the folks, the taxpayers that you contact or that department is involved in? What would be that measure of success in your opinion?
It's tricky, you're right, because one, economic development is not one of those things that you do it today and you have a result tomorrow. It's a longer term process sometimes. The other thing is part of what we do is be the connector, and that's a hard thing to quantify. I mean, I can tell you, I could do tallies of all the people I contact, but does that does the volume of it indicate success or quality necessarily? We can get quantity, but what you get as quality is more difficult to get at. That's why we try to measure the things we can measure. We can measure our website. We can measure how many people come to that now. That's one matrix of how we're serving people. We can measure our marketing and how we reach people. That's one measure. So it's hard because there's kind of almost multiple types of measurement depending on which of our programs you're talking about. How do you measure the success of a program like Leadership Red Rock? We know over the years, we've done it for 26 years.
A lot of people.
That a lot of people have been touched by that program. They've been educated, they've been connected. But how do you really quantify the value of that? I guess what I see a lot of times is when I go to other counties and when I listen to people like our utilities people that serve multiple counties, they talk about the quality of what we've got. Like for our businesses, what we've tried to develop is a continuum with startups, stage 2, existing, and now mature businesses, so that we have a touch point where we can help our businesses from one continuum to the other. So the comprehensiveness of what I envision our job is and what we're trying to do with workforce in the same way to have upskilling and attracting, those are the types of things that other counties aren't doing. And we hope that our mix of products and services help long-term position us. Now, is there a metric necessarily? It's difficult. I will not deny you. I've tried to figure out, okay, what can I, me, and it's very hard because some of it is so interesting to see because, like, okay, for instance, I had a space in the travel guide, this much space, 2 years ago. I didn't know what to do with it. So I put together, because everybody was sending me pictures of Bloody Marys. So I put together this Red Rock Marys Trail. Because I had the content, I had a space, so I put it together. I used it again this year because I had, again, that little space. Sit down in my leadership class, and here I'm sitting with a table of 8 people, and they said, oh yeah, we've all done that. We've all gone to all the businesses that are on that Red Rock Marys Trail. So we're churning that people wouldn't have done, and yet sometimes it's the silliest things that take off. I mean, right. We've got a meeting coming up with Tyler and Steve, because this whole thing of gravel road riding is a big deal. It's a big trend. For those of us in Iowa, we do not understand it. I can honestly tell you. But we're looking at, is that a potential? So looking at the possible things that we can have impact in. Some are small, some are big, and seeing how we can kind of constantly churn. And I think one of the things I think we can be proud of is that we're not a development organization that's doing the same things today that we were doing 10 years ago. So our responsiveness to the climate and conditions, I think we excel at, because we're constantly evolving what we do and who we're involved in. You know, the housing study, case in point, Marion County did not put any funds except my time to do that housing study. Yet I can bring you up a parade of people who will tell you the importance of what that housing study did for our county. And so those are the types of things we do that are not always on the outside. People don't see what we do. We're not as, you know, we're not there building Smash Park, but we maybe had an influence in that coming about by what we did with the housing study.
Very good, very good. Appreciate it. Board, questions for Carla?
I think more it's just a talking point for myself too, with Carla is, I think it's great that we talked about, you know, maybe the laundry facility and having that discussion, because I personally would like to get you involved in that if that's the avenue in which we decide. And I mean, if the RIF language goes through, then there's going to be an application for that we have to apply for. So that I guess personally, I see if the VA and the laundry facility, you could be spending quite a bit of time at that. I mean, you know, I'm not for sure who gives you your goals, if that's just coming from your commission or is that coming from you?
Kind of a combination.
Okay. Well, yeah, and so I think we may be diverting from some of that. If we go that direction, I would like you to have an open mind to that. I would like your commission to have an open mind to that.
But
Because
also to keep in mind, one of the stress points that I have with not having admin anymore is I have these two beasts of websites that are very important. And I have people that have expectations that when they say this needs to be changed, that it needs to be changed in a timely manner. And so that's one of my pinch points is I've got a lot of typical admin stuff now that I've taken on that I have not been doing. And now with a wonderful website like we have, it's great, and it will only be great as long as you keep pushing it with information and new articles and new stuff, and that's an admin time.
Okay.
So that's one of my stressors is because, yes, I can do these bigger things that I know how to do, but I also I can't ignore some of those admin things that really have to go on.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I would like to thank.
Are you in support of or not in support of Carla?
Yeah, I would like to thank her. Over the past couple of years, I've applied for dozens or more grants. And I call her looking for specific information or email looking for specific information. She has it. She always has the facts and the figures. And more often than not now, economic development is a key piece in a road safety grant, a piece of equipment grant. Anything that we purchase or do at the road department as far as grants, they're always looking for the economic development piece or information on tourism. How are your roads being used to support tourism and economic growth and economic development? And she always has the information. She always gives us support in a timely manner. And then we have discussions beyond that because the information she provides is always useful, valuable, and interesting to me. And it's very pertinent that I get the correct and accurate information into those grants to be successful in acquiring those grants. And we have been successful, and some we don't know yet, but I just want to thank her for all her efforts, and sometimes with a fairly quick turnaround and deadline. So thank you.
Appreciate that, Tyler. Thank you.
Tyler.
Thank you, Carla. Great. Keisha, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nope.
Okay. Steve.
I too would like to thank you, Carla, especially with the work with Pleasantville that you've done. And I didn't realize that Tyler was kind of dependent on some of that stuff either till just now.
Well, that's like I said, I could write down and tally all the people I give stuff to, but I don't because I'm literally giving, like, a lot of my day is helping other people do their jobs. Giving them the information and data they need to do their jobs. Whether that's at the city level, whether that's at the county level, whether that's our businesses, that's a lot of what we do.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Carla, in your budget, you put in how much for a raise?
We put it back down to the 5% that was approved.
Okay, very good.
And it is one of those things, I mean, like Missy talked about in her evaluation, I won't be here forever, so that's also a continuity issue. I am a department of one, where nobody knows really what I do. I'm not gonna be here forever.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, it is. Probably not gonna be here past 5 years. There's an even bolder one.
Okay.
So, that's one of those things as we look to continuity of government. I think some of us one-person departments that have 26 plus years experience, there's an issue there when, how do we
Sure.
look long-term planning for some of these departments?
Jeff, are we contemplating that within the COG study? Okay. Very good. Carla, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Carla.
Thank you. All right, we can close discussion on that. Is there a motion?
Make motion to close discussion.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
All right, very good. Tyler?
I didn't look at the agenda, am I next?
You're next.
You are next.
No PowerPoint?
No PowerPoint. I did provide you some information that I typically provide because during my annual review, as part of my contract or employee agreement, my salary is negotiable annually, and it also states an annual review. So we've been doing annual reviews long before you guys were doing annual reviews like this for most departments.
That
So
is correct.
I do not have any information prepared other than what I provided in that memo and with that information.
No, I appreciate that. Board, do you have questions for Tyler or comments?
So you sticking around or what?
Well, last night, I put the last piece of siding on my house, so
Can I have my staple guns back?
when my wife gets the chicken coop built, you can have so, yeah, I plan to stick around.
All right.
That's my forever home. That's just my forever career.
I appreciate everything you do, Tyler. I really do, buddy, because I guess I'm a little different because I had to work with you for a while.
Have to.
Well, didn't have to, but it was enjoyable. And I mean, I think the county has taken a step forward with you in the position that you're in. And everybody's positions. I appreciate everybody, really.
Mark asked Carla how to quantify. I think departmentally, you can look at some of our budgets, where we have decreased budgets and where we have increased, and focused on the roads more so. And that's evident in the budget, but it's also evident on the road system, I believe. I think quantifiably, we can go out there and say, we're spending less on patching because we've made these proactive improvements on these seal coats and on these pavements. I think in the quality of our rock, that's quantifiable. We can go out and run some tests on that rock right now that's on the roads, and it's different than it was 5 or 6 years ago. I think morale is a little hard to gauge, but I think morale is, it has its ebbs and flows, but I think overall morale within the department is good and is on the rise. And I think as an administrative part of my staff, I think we've made some improvements there, changed some policies that help with that, and tried to improve communication. If you remember a couple years ago, we did this thing called Focus 2020. So going into 2020, difficult year, obviously, so we didn't accomplish everything we wanted as part of that, but the result was efficiency improvements, just taking a look at our department, every aspect of our department, and how can we make changes for the better. Last year, we were focused a lot on efficiency, and we've talked about those. I think in the next year, operationally, we'll be focused on the quality of our work. We've had some discussions recently about putting together a task force and doing some training, internal training. What's the most efficient way to clear snow off an intersection with a motor grader? Teach that to everyone. Everyone does it a little different. Everybody gets trained by somebody different. So we want to, pool that information. How do we clear the intersection most efficiently? Does it take 2 minutes or does it take 10? Well, that makes a big difference when you're clearing 150 intersections on your route. So we're going to look at things like that moving forward. And then our focus is going to shift a little more from operational policies to the public. We just put our entrance permit and policy online. We have other permits and policies that we're dealing with the public, and we're going to move towards how do we better serve the public through those administrative procedures.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff here.
Yes, Sheriff.
Hey, I just wanted to thank Tyler and all his guys also. Just obviously, Tyler's department is one of those departments my office works with on a regular basis, especially in the winter. winter months when we have accidents or slick hills or road conditions or different things. But both Tyler and his staff are very easy to get a hold of. They're very responsive in regards to when we have things that we need or feel need to be taken care of. So just wanted to thank him and his staff for that.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that.
Thank you. That was actually a point I was gonna make, is it seems like, I've been here 8.5 years, seems like every year department heads are more and more cohesive and are required to work with each other more and more. I mean, all these department heads, for the first couple of years, I didn't have a lot of discussion with, but I was getting my feet on the ground. But it just seems like, I don't know, maybe Steve was doing that for our department when he was there, but it seems like I'm more and more involved in the other operations, whether it's talking with Jake and Michaela about funding and revenues and projections, and or dealing with Jeff or Jason. But there's a lot of good collaboration going on amongst department heads, and it seems to be more and more of a common thing.
Yeah,
Good.
we're all in it together, buddy.
Well, I appreciate that comment, Tyler. That's what we want. That's what we hope for all of our department heads, to be able to leverage each other's experience and talents and expertise. Ultimately, the issue is to better serve the taxpayer. And I think that works that way.
Yep.
I think that's great. Keisha?
Yep. I just wanted to say, to quantify this is very difficult because you're top notch. You really are. And I appreciate that. I work with other board of supervisors in other counties, and they talk a lot about you and how well you do. And I'm sure they're reaching out to you and asking questions. They must be, because they're like, you have an exceptional, engineer. So I appreciate that. I appreciate, I know that your leadership skills is passed on to your department, because they're also we don't receive the calls. I know that's one thing. They're handling that. They're taking care of it. If I do, if I call, it's handled, and I appreciate that. So, and thank you for always looking at ways to, whether it's fiscally, you're just always being responsible in that aspect of trying to serve the taxpayer most responsibly. So thank you.
I trained him well.
You did.
Very
No,
good.
He was already top notch for
That's
me
right.
coming here, so.
Well, Tyler, I think you know where I stand, but just to make it public again, one of the best hires we ever made. So, at least on my time on the board. So, appreciate the job you do, you and your department. I think Keisha's exactly right. Leadership is about influence. That's always the thing I taught everybody that I was ever around when I ran things. And I think your influence over your department, over other members of Marion County government, over our citizens, is extremely positive and puts a very competent light on what we do. People know we can accomplish the things that we set out to do, and that's a reflection of your leadership. So I truly appreciate that, and I'm glad you're sticking around. It's a good thing. But I'm not going to renegotiate your salary. All right, very good. Tyler, anything else you want to add? All right, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Tyler did put the 5%, and so that's that's fine. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just make mention that his employment agreement needs to be updated too? His contract?
But that's not in here.
It was included with what I sent you
Yeah.
yesterday.
Oh, it was in the email yesterday?
But it's
Jason did
just
not.
It's not a.
it's
particular
last
agenda
year's.
item.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we make
So-
that an agenda item next meeting?
I can have that,
Because that needs to be, and that's always been an agenda item.
okay,
So
I can get that ready.
Tyler will do that next meeting. Okay? All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
This will give you a chance. Kind of negotiate, do what you need to do. All right?
So 4 more weeks of vacation?
I
No,
like you, but not that much. All right.
negotiations over.
Thank you. All right.
Make motion to close discussion.
Second,
Ramey,
Aye?
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
aye.
All right, very good. Thank you. Jake, will you make a note? That's an agenda item next time. Very good. Mr. Nestovey,
Board, good to see you again. Well, it has been it's been a busy almost 3 years already. Can you believe that?
3 years.
3 years.
It's gone by like that, right?
Everybody's going, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it really has been.
Wow. Either
No,
that or they're saying, man, it hasn't been that long.
No, it's been good. It's been really good. I think we're finally getting at a stage, the guys and I talk almost every week as we remove things from our punch list and add things. We're adding less and less infrastructure projects to our list, which means we're finally catching up. So I think all in all, if you look at what we've been able to update, replace, we're no longer band-aiding things. Of course, post-COVID world has caused us to pull the band-aids back out again, just because, as Tyler spoke to earlier, availability and lead times are almost unbelievable for products that you used to be able to just pick up on the shelf in town. But I can't think about one single thing that we have right now in our immediate sphere of buildings that is currently band-aided or not currently slated for replacement because it needs it. You guys have been very receptive to the infrastructure needs of the county, and I appreciate that because it does make my job a whole lot easier to be able to come to the three of you and say, listen, here's what we have to fix. It should have been replaced 10 years ago. We have to move forward with it. You've all been very receptive to that. So we're in a great place. I'm looking forward to the day, believe it or not, as a department head, of saying, I don't need that big of a budget anymore. I'm actually looking forward to that.
That'd be wonderful, yeah.
Very good.
I have a question for you. 6th Street Annex, is there anybody in that building still, or are they, wasn't for sure.
DHS still uses that building on both sides.
Okay.
It's a building I would still love to see us get rid of. We've obviously, redid 4th floor in a timely fashion and got juvenile court services some really nice office space up there that they seem extremely happy with. So really, we're down to just having DHS there. And I don't have access to the contract on that,
Jake,
so I don't know where we're sitting on our.
Yeah, where's our agreement on that? Do we know?
There's a lease with DHS Case Management. I don't
I think it's
know it exactly.
September of 23.
I'll forward it, I'll find
Yeah,
it.
if you could pull it up, then let's take a look at
I
that.
think that's what it is
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think it's September of
That'd be
23.
great to get rid of that building.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Yeah.
Anything else, Keisha?
Other than, you do a great job. You really do. I know that we have put before you some obstacles, but you're always willing to trudge forth and, you're like, I'll figure it out. I'll do it. And so I appreciate that. That again shows your leadership skill, and then that also shows, as a department head, how you have, brought those others to. Because even all your staff, they're excellent to work with, and that comes through you. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for that comment. I would tell you that my staff makes me look good. They are outstanding. We are blessed beyond words with some of the folks that we have, from just their work ethic to the knowledge they possess and their willingness to always learn. So this job would be impossible without staff that I can trust to do on their own without supervision. It would be absolutely impossible with the VA project to have to babysit and manage that. But I've been fortunate in the fact that all I have to do is manage that because they manage themselves extremely well. And I'll echo what Tyler said. I work with department heads every day. We have, I would venture to say, an outstanding relationship with every department head. Cordial conversation. We're willing to give on both sides. Everyone is extremely receptive. Kim, for example, I have a parking lot slated to be replaced in September, and I get a phone call a month ago that it's going to start in 2 days. I gave her a 2-day lead time, and she met it and moved forward. And now we have a new parking lot that had to be replaced. Didn't need to be replaced, it had to be replaced. So we have that same conversation with Jason just last week about him being able to also put some funds toward making not just a replacement of the parking lot, but making the parking lot the way it should have always been. So I can honestly say it's a joy to work with the department heads as well. They make my job a lot easier because I don't meet a whole lot of resistance.
Mr. Chair.
Sheriff.
Sheriff here again, just what Chris is speaking, which too, and a credit to him and his staff. At my office, I mean, we see them obviously about daily on different things with the jail, with the office itself. I mean, everything that's going on. But just an example for Chris here, that week I was out working 12-hour days looking for that missing drowning victim. Chris took care of a lot of things in regards to lining up stuff, making contact with multiple members of my staff. That made my life easier. Instead of me having to worry about what was going on back at the office on the construction aspect of it, Chris handled that with other members of my staff. And so just once again, he's another, his department's another department that we work with about daily, and just kudos for him and everything they do.
Appreciate that, Sheriff. Thank you. Steve.
No, I have enjoyed the last 3 years, Chris, to tell you the truth. I enjoy working with you, and I love the way that you're always open to new ideas. Sometimes my ideas seem a little crazy, but you pick up on it, and then we modify them, and we get done with it.
Most are sane, Steve.
Huh?
Most are sane. You do have some interesting ones, but you know what? I have some crazy ones too.
Yeah.
But I think that is a credit to, again, I want to hats off to the board and the rest of the department heads. I don't know of anybody that we have that's closed-minded. We are, almost every circumstance I've had the privilege and sometimes headache of dealing with has been with open-minded people. And that helps because it shows that our focus is doing what's best for the taxpayer, not what's best for us. So that is a unique thing.
Very good.
Thanks.
Well, Chris, again, thank you for your work, your effort, your leadership. Your team has done outstanding work. I think you're right. And the same thing I said to Tyler, I'd say to you, it's leadership, and leadership is about influence. And your folks follow your lead. If you're not doing those things, and this is true of any leader anywhere in government or in business, if you're not doing those things, people won't do it either, or they will begin to think there are other ways to do their job, and it's usually less than optimal. So you've done a wonderful job. You got saddled with probably the most complex project we've ever done, and that's the VA, and handled it magnificently, bringing it in under budget, handling the quoting process, just all those things. I could not have done that without you. Little backstory, Chris used to work for me in a prior life, and when I thought I had an opening for a facilities person, who would that be? I thought, perfect opportunity. And I remember the first couple calls we had, it was like, what? I really want to do that? But I think Marion County would be less without you here. Well, I know it would. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, we've certainly progressed.
And I will say, even moving the courthouse and then doing that, and I mean, did we ever do a video on that? When we went to East Elementary and then, there, I mean, the turnaround time was amazing.
We didn't have time for a video.
Right? But I sometimes wish we did, so that we could be like, yeah, this is the craziness we asked them to do.
Well, if we ever stop doing this stuff, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Actually, I'm kind of curious too. We need more major projects. I don't know what I'm going to do with a 40-hour work week at some point.
No, I'm fine with not talking.
Oh!
All right. And Chris, you got 5 in your
Yep,
budget?
that was the board's recommendation, and that's what I put in for my entire department. So.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Is there a motion to close discussion?
Make motion to close discussion.
Second.
Johnner?
Aye.
McCombs?
Aye.
Ramey?
Aye. Very good. Updates, Mr. McCombs,
No, I'm good.
Ms. Johnner.
Yeah, I just have a couple quick ones, have impact this week. Also wanted to give a Prairie Ridge update. I was through there this weekend, did some documentation. 22 home starts, 10 are 100% completely done. I did receive yesterday 4 new spec homes. There would be through Sage that I need to sign those documents, so.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Other than that, that's all I have.
I appreciate that, and Mike Nardini will be here our first meeting in June to provide an additional update on Prairie Ridge and other projects in Pelham, so look forward to that. Meetings today, mental health is today. We are still working on that transition process. There will be more to report on post that meeting. That's at 1 o'clock in Corridon. And then we have public health. Is that tonight, Kim?
It's tonight at 5.
Tonight at 5, okay, so I'll go from that to that. I guess my closing comment would be, given the reviews that we had today, again, the challenge for all of us, whether we are elected or whether we are running departments, is to continue to pursue excellence. And some of the things that we said during the course of these reviews reflect a desire for all of our departments, department heads, electeds, and the folks that work underneath them to pursue excellence, because that's what will benefit our taxpayer the most. We are entering challenging economic times, no question about that. We don't know how long those will last. So pursuing excellence in our daily job functions provides the ultimate value for our taxpayer, and thinking that that's why we do what we do. It's for them, because they pay for this. They entrust us with those dollars to make good, wise, sound decisions to the best of our ability. So keep that in mind as you go forward, as we talk about the different projects, the different processes, the things that will be going on as we continue to evolve Marion County government. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
McCombs?
Aye.
Ramey?
Aye,
Johnner?
Aye.
we are adjourned. Thank you.